have a look at the NRL and AFL. Let's start with NRL. One of those questions we wanted to kind of cover was the amount of injuries that happen in training. So I'll run through some. So Bryce Cartwright, who's just joined Power from the Titans, broke his jaw on Monday, and that was after we talked about Mick Ennis doing his ACL on the Friday.
Also at training.
How do you say the New Zealand Warriors?
Eliesa Katoa.
Katoa fractured his eye socket. Looks like he may play on the first. Billy Smith, which is a name I can pronounce, for the Roosters, did his shoulder, could miss 2 months. There was Jack Williams from Cronulla. He was admitted to hospital and actually put into an induced coma.
Yeah, so this was from the trial game. I don't know if you guys saw the footage. It was essentially a big don't argue, and it got him pretty clean in his throat.
Yeah.
He spent 3 nights in hospital, induced coma. I imagine that's intensive care.
Wow.
They was questioning there was some nerve damage there. Apparently he's recovering well. He's in good spirits. Eddie Blacker, he is...
The prop that did defend.
Yeah, the Dragons prop. I think he made his debut last year. Cops 3 weeks. Maybe I'm a one-eyed, red-eyed, red-V'd-eyed Dragon supporter. Did you see the footage of this?
I didn't see the fend, but my question to you was it open hand or closed hand?
Open.
So I think, I'd say that's probably a bit stiff because it's a fend.
And
if he hits him in the face, then it's probably okay. Like
you can't punch people when you've got the ball.
Yeah, exactly. But like if it's an open hand and he's pushed,
if you can get that footage up so the boys
if he hasn't
can watch it,
grabbed or squeezed or it's just a fend. Like you imagine Derek Henry doing the same thing. It's just it's going to be the same outcome.
And my thoughts,
sorry to cross sports again. But
my thoughts go out to Jack Williams. That's a horrific injury to have suffered. But
it's just unlucky
for me. Watching this, it did seem rather innocuous
because you kind of thinking, well,
so that's it there.
Okay. Or is it more elbowed? Is he cop him with the elbow as well?
I think that's just fend.
So I think it'll just let it go. It should play it again.
So he took the 3 weeks. He could have had 4 early guilty plea.
Yeah. If with the suspension like that, are they starting to? They took out the shoulder charge. Are they going to try to start stamping out the fend?
Well, can I ask, as the league nuffy on the panel, if I give you a don't argue to the face, is that a penalty?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're not meant to be able to fend to the face.
I think it's elbow. So he hits him with the elbow. And
it's more forearm. So I think that's the
forearm shiver is I think what's done him here.
Yeah, and I think that if you want to clamp out stuff to the head, which is what World Sport's doing, that's what's going to do it, and it's unfortunate.
You can see that there.
Okay, so it's probably his forearm and elbow that's making contact.
I think that's unlucky though. That's his hand and slipping up his forearm.
Well, the argument is if Jack Williams gets up and goes away, it is that.
Yeah, they want to stamp out.
But it's a result based thing, not the
right, exactly.
The problem is that happens almost every week in the NRL.
And they've reverse engineered this back from the injury and going, this is a pretty fucked up injury. Let's slap the guy with
trying to be a bit PC
with a little suspension. Yeah,
because if you change it and he goes low and you fend him, on the top of his head and you push him down and get him out of the way and he's fine. Like it's still it's a fend, but it's just. I think what's undone him is the forearm shiver here, where he's hit him with probably the very hard point of the forearm down the bottom towards the elbow, which can do a fair bit of damage, especially when you hit him straight under the throat. But small man or big man, these things happen.
Indeed. Wishing Jack Williams all the best with his recovery.
Yes, quick recovery, definitely.
There. A little bit of news out of Bronco land, Tony Staggs. He's continuing his rehab. Obviously did his ACL in one of the last games last year. They reckon he'll be back mid-season. We were speaking last week about he's probably the best player at Brisbane.
Oh, yes. Yep. I mean, I'd say after all the stuff Payne House has done, I'd pick him as your best player out of Brisbane.
Not really any news, actually.
No, it's just he's just progressing.
Seems to be rehabbing well.
Yeah. What do you think about all this, the injuries in training? Because does it mean, as blokes probably coming off the off-season a bit rough or are they just going too hard? Because it seems a bit odd. Because I know last year, like Jack Bird did his ACL really like the week before the first game. But outside of that, I can't really think of any many injuries that happened in the training leading up to it because they didn't. I think they had more preseason than they did this year. Well, they played like 4 games preseason and they didn't play any now because they're just not travelling for that.
If you look at that list of injuries, we've got broken jaw, fractured eye socket, shoulder injury, and then obviously the unlucky fend. They're all contact injuries, so there's actually not a lot. That's just
no soft
incidents.
tissue.
There's no soft tissue. There's no ACL. That's the argument. The ACL and the soft tissue. If you're underdone, you're not going to be as fit, so you're going to your muscles aren't ready to go. I think it's just one of those things with injuries we hate about the sport. But
does that lead to then maybe are they going too hard in training?
That's interesting. That is interesting. We'll get to the AFL in a sec. I do think they really like to simulate the game a lot these days. I don't know. I don't know if we are over analysing this point. I think if we went back, hindsight is 2020. If we looked at every preseason, you probably would be pulling out a bunch of injuries from each one.
I like the point you just made about going live, because if we use the fighting analogy, they're definitely moving a lot away from sparring for that reason, because guys get banged up, guys they get knocked down in training, and then leading into the fight, your chin's more susceptible. So similar sort of situation, I guess. If you're going live, you're going hard. You got to expect, I guess, there's going to be some fallout from that. There's going to be some injuries. Yes, maybe come into the season more prepared, but it seems that the guys that have kind of toned down their sparring and focused more on technique have actually progressed further in the UFC world. I wonder if maybe that sort of stuff starts flowing into the other contact team sports, where it's more of the technical mental game and less of the meathead game, I guess.
Yeah, but you don't want to go the other way either. I think
you don't want either extreme. I think.
If you look at the NFL this year, obviously with no preseason, there was no really hard simulated contact. They had a bunch of injuries.
But training camps also changed as well. Like training camp used to be really brutal in the NFL. You'd be banging pads every day, and you'd be doing it for 2 months leading up. 2 a day is it's crazy. Whereas now they've, in part of the CBA, they've kind of written all that out just to try to protect players, because it's a long season, and they're going to be banging on each other all year. So
interesting point.
Interesting to see.
I don't know if we're going to get a
definitive
answer out of this discussion.
Maybe something to follow throughout the coming years.
Long-term thing,
Indeed. Sean, what happened with these Raiders boys?
So it kind of flew under the radar, and it only came out because of another story in relation to the Raiders. So a couple of the Raiders players, so Corey
Come on, you can do this. You can do this.
Harawira, fuck.
You were very close there.
I know how to say it. I just can't get it out.
Try. Come on.
Harawira, I know. I got to say it quickly. I just can't do it.
Yeah, there's no
Harawira Naira.
The Kiwi. And Corey Hornsberg.
Former Canterbury Bulldog.
Yes, played for the Raiders last year. Corey Hornsberg as well. They both got done for DUI during the off-season. So Corey, I think, was like a week after Christmas, and then they're both Corys. That doesn't help anyone. CHN. I think he was first, and then Horsburgh was in late January.
Horsburgh.
Yeah, but both got done for DUI. Both have been dropped from the top side, like as in they've gone back to feeder club. They need to earn their spots back. Ricky's just like, I'm not having any of that. Yeah. But during the week, the kind of what led into this story was a bunch of junior players. They played in, it says under 18 side, and that's what the news reported it as, but I don't think these boys, because they're out drinking, so I don't think they're actually under 18.
Out drinking?
Yeah, well, they're out civic, out in the city.
18-year-olds in civic, I won't hear it.
Yeah, and...
Wasn't a club called Mooseheads by any chance?
Yeah, quite possibly. For another great shout-out for Mooseheads.
Shout out Mooseheads if you're looking to sponsor any upcoming podcasts. We're
So the boys got into a brawl with a whole bunch of people. What really did them in was the club found out about it, then asked them about it. Of the four boys, 3 lied about their involvement. Sounds like one told the truth, and then probably as part of that snitched.
Classic teacher move, that one. We know who did it, so if you tell,
who's already told us.
The other 3 have already. I was like, all right, we did this. So they got one.
Old prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah, this is shout out to the New York Police Department. I think I saw a little documentary on Netflix. They run this one as well. Got people to confess to some things they did not do.
Yes. Canberra Raiders, NYPD, they're same in the same breath.
Well, didn't one of the guys get glassed or get hit over the head with a ball or something?
I think they did the glassing, which is kind of, again, not a great look.
Allegedly, of course.
Lying to the club didn't help as well. So as part of that, part of their involvement, all 4 guys have been cut from the squad. So
what do you reckon the Raiders senior members hit him with Look, guys, we're not mad. We're just really disappointed that you lied to us. You felt that you couldn't be open with us.
Well, Ricky came out during the week and said that's not a culture. That's not what we stand for. So,
that's fair.
You know,
understandable.
We can't stand by those guys. Sorry, you're out.
And we go. Sorry to cut you off there, Sean, but we've done it the last couple of weeks and talking about what's acceptable, what culture do we want to stamp out. If this was Jack White and you know, name some Raiders players for me, Papali. Papali, is it the same thing? Like, yes, awesome, you cut it. Absolutely, we don't tolerate this, we go. But is it because you're 18-year-old kids or is it because we don't want the culture? So,
exactly.
So it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but keep it consistent.
I agree with you because like Payne Haas has just done something very similar and he copped a big fine, but he's playing in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Well, he's got his 3 week suspension, but after that he'll be playing for Brisbane.
And who's more likely to bounce back from something like this? An 18-year-old kid who had his hopes hung up on footy or the guy who's making, you know, $1 million a year?
You know, his whole support system's just probably disappeared from him.
Exactly. And we're not, you know, God, we're not going to solve footy culture here in your living room here, Sean. No. But I mean, it's you just want to get rid of this mungo meathead boys club, get mentality. Pissed, do whatever you want because I'm good at footy.
But that's Australian culture, bro.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that served so well over recently. Don't open a newspaper or anything in the past 47 years.
Yeah. But I mean, they did it with, was it Dugan and Fergo?
Yeah,
same thing. Well, they were skipping training and getting pissed on the roof. So
but again, that's it's not like they were in a brawl. There was no assault. It was obviously they were meant to be at training and they took a photo of themselves. But
I think there's a lot more.
But they're also good examples because both have had stellar NRL careers after that, and they were very young when they did that. So maybe they did live and learn. And
I think maybe the other side of that is they did get out of the Raiders and got better deals in Sydney. So
we haven't heard about it. They don't live
for them
anymore.
Could you imagine the Canberra Raiders right now if they had every single one of them that played? Oh my goodness. Dugan, Ferguson.
Can you imagine that under 18
Milford
team playing for the Valley Dragons? All those boys coming through.
I don't know if they all grew up in the ACT, but
they all not Ferguson. I know Croker.
He's
Dugan.
from Goulburn originally. Dugan, obviously, Tuggeranong.
There was a whole list of them. And they all left. No, was it Carney? There was a bunch of them.
Carney's from Goulburn.
There was a bunch of them that came through the system all at the same time. And they played together a bit. Anyway, that's Raiders history you don't need to go into.
A big tangent
Brett Mullins.
there. We talk a lot about there. What's going on with Craig Bellamy? Is there some little secret Chinese whispers going on?
It sounds like there's a report that's come out that for the last 6 months he's been having some secret chats with the Sharks CEO about possibly joining the club from next year. Of course, his coaching deal runs out with Melbourne at the end of this season. There's talk about him going to Brisbane is one of the other ones, but of course Kevin Walters is now there and they're thinking about how would they join up. Melbourne, staying at Melbourne, and I think Titans from memory were some of the places.
Just listed. About anywhere, really.
But him and Wayne are probably the two premier coaches that they're the name coaches. They're those franchise face guys you can put in there and everyone knows who they are. So Wayne, of course, is in a similar position. He's having chats about whether he stays at South or whether he goes elsewhere to similar spots that Craig's also involved in. So there's a bit of overlap between the two of them. Where they go could then start off next year's coaching carousel, as you will, for how that all goes. But interesting that the Sharks, which kind of left field because it sounded like Bellamy more likely to go back to Queensland.
Yeah, not a huge club, I guess, in Cronulla.
Yeah, but
it'd want to be a lot of money, wouldn't it? God, for Bellamy
you think so.
And
Sharkies are definitely not been the richest club, but they've definitely invested more in the Shire. So sounds like they're interesting. Is it John Morris, their current coach?
Josh, yeah. Yeah, I think probably the youngest.
I know it is John.
It's John. He's Josh. You're thinking of the Morris brothers.
Yeah.
It's John Morris, yeah.
Who's calling me out. That's their real brain
Dragons,
fart.
West
Real
Tigers.
brain fart from me. Yeah, hooker, John Morris.
Yeah,
quite a good-looking young rooster.
Second or third year, I think, with Sharks.
Bit of everything on the Esky today.
Yeah, little.
Let's rate all the rugby league coaches and their looks.
Well, John Morris is not last. Of course, I was.
Wayne's probably last. Keep going.
I was thinking of Josh Morris.
You're thinking of the Morris brothers.
Centre from the Roosters, Bulldogs, Dragons.
Yeah, but John Morris, the coach, I think he's been there 2 or 3 years. I wonder what that kind of means for him. He probably is like, well, it's Craig. Like, of course, you're going to talk to Craig Bellamy. I've only been here 3 years. He's won 6 premierships, 2 asterisks.
John's off contract at the end of the season.
There's that too. So great shout.
Yeah. Interesting sort of.
Coaching carousel to come in the NRL. The Indigenous All-Stars versus Maori All-Stars is Saturday night in Townsville. Just wanted to shout that out, that game. The Maoris won this corresponding game last year at 30-16, and it was in Melbourne. Being interesting sides with the new guys coming in with the Melbourne lockdown. Big story, big rumour story. Cameron Smith, he's, of course, relocated his family up to the Gold Coast. There's rumours he's been seen training with the under-19 squad, and Josh Holbrook has been overseeing some of that. Of course, the Titans head coach, and in the Gold Coast, the Titans feeder club. He's been doing some coaching / assistance work with some of the other younger clubs, like under-18 clubs in the Gold Coast. Rumours out there that he's signed with them. And Gold Coast, of course, denying everything that's not official.
Did you see who's leading the denials? They're what's his title? Culture manager or something. Mal Meninga is the culture manager. Culture manager. It's the most bullshit.
Mal's come out and denying it all. But
how do I get that gig?
Culture manager. In denying it all, there's a comment here where he was talking to Yvonne Sampson, and he dropped that's the $550,000 question in terms of contract figures. So
an exact number.
So,
jeez, that's
this has been speculated obviously for months,
for a very long time. But he's been cited in and around the club. They're talking about it. It's very hard for them to kind of hide if it's going to happen. Mark Guy, I think, was coming out and saying, hey, if the Titans, I think he's maybe waiting. If the Titans start, say, on 4, he's going to be like, nah, but if they win their first 4, he might be like,
he wouldn't all right,
would he? Who knows? But then I think about Nathan Pence, who's the Pete's, who's the current hooker, who's, was looking at Origin as a hooker a couple of years ago. Solid.
Very good, yeah.
So if he stays, because I think he's still on contract with them, if he stays there, does that mean Cameron comes in and plays maybe 6 with Ash Taylor playing 7? You disregard that.
I don't think that's going to happen.
It's just how do you put your best 13 on? Like, you got to put Cameron in the side somewhere.
And keep Pete's there.
And how you keep Pete's in. Because I don't know who 6 is, but I know Ashton Taylor plays 7.
Have a look at
because maybe you play Cameron at 7 and you push Taylor into 6 as a shout.
Some Brady-esque type talk here, isn't
there?
Late in the career.
Getting the goat.
A goat. Can I do it at a shit club?
Get the coach on the field.
Without Craig Bellamy.
So what does this mean for Melbourne?
Well, they've got Harry Grant's back there.
They're fine.
So Cam's done in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think they've got.
No, we're not saying that.
We're not saying it's not. Nothing's official.
Everything on the Esky is alleged.
Yeah, allegedly. Nothing's been announced from the Storm, which is like they haven't done a big
There's been nothing. Yeah.
Which is so weird because this is the greatest player. Whatever. One of the greatest players of all time. The greatest player of your club.
Top 3.
Like you'd roll the carpet out, you build a statue for him, and I don't know. We're a couple of weeks from round 1, and no one actually knows if he's
official or model, definitely. So
have to keep an eye on that
because I know they've got. Harry Grant's there, Smith's there. I know Daniel Hughes might be going to the Warriors to move from in the halves to play fullback.
Young bloke called Aaron Clark. I think he's played a few first grade games. I don't know if they've got a legitimate 6. Jamal Fogarty, he's a good shout. I saw a photo of him today. He is he's a big half.
True, but maybe in that kind of Jack Whiting model, but. If you want to get the best out of Ash Taylor, do you put Cameron Smith next to him?
Maybe, They do pay a lot of money to have Ash Taylor there. Maybe it's just, I don't know, a mentoring role.
Could be. So anyway, all speculation. We will follow this in the coming weeks as we get closer to the season and what happens with Cameron. At this point, he's got no contract, so I guess we can consider him retired at this point.
TB12. Suliasi Vunivalu stood down from the Reds, obviously former Melbourne Storms Storm
Reds
winger.
First game. Well, the Super Rugby actually starts tomorrow on Friday.
You're joking.
They had their
first games tomorrow. So lovely promotion.
Seen it advertised everywhere. It's on billboards.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that
the rugby
competition that is that local sports team.
That sport is going places in this country. For sure.
I reckon ice hockey's got a bigger hand, standing in Australia.
Yeah, go Braves, I guess.
Did Foxo buy all the rights to that? Someone bought all the rights to rugby. Maybe it's KO. I think it's all going to be on KO. So no Frito.
I will not be watching.
And we shall not be commenting too much because obviously we're all league heads here. We probably wouldn't have much to add, really.
No. Just like the NHL. But
this story involving Vunivalu, what happened, Sean?
So he didn't tell the club what happened, and it kind of came out later on, like a month later. Like it's only just come out, and he did a press conference, I think Tuesday, to confirm it. He's been stood down. I think there's probably fine pending, but it happened in January. He's pushed a security guard at a nightclub, or I think it might have been like an RSL, at a club.
Nightclub, heaving, RSL, that's all the same. It's also women everywhere.
I think it was more a pub than a nightclub. So, but anyways, it hasn't gone down well for him. It's come out and he's now been stood down, which is a bummer for him because I think the Wallabies were trying to fast track him into the squad. So that was all on the table too. So
be a good addition to the St. George Dragons. Hopefully their management is listening. I reckon throw him a few bones and get him on the wing this year for the Big Red V.
Yeah, well, you can't talk about religion, but if you push your security guard, we'll let you play for the Dragon.
Pushed, and allegedly.
Allegedly.
So on that, Nine's got the rugby.
That's
from the
right.
Looks of it.
Yes, that we talked about this. Yeah, because rugby's got it, and then the overlap between them and rugby league, how that's going to go. So
very strange.
We're going to have to see that. Of course, it sounds like we're not promoting the rugby at all.
Well, I haven't seen a single.
I've seen promotion for the rugby league, but I haven't seen anything for interesting. Maybe they didn't pay for that anyway.